Hi, this is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today we're talking about planetary energies that will be affecting us. That's right, today we're talking about Saturn going into retrograde in the sign of Pisces. So let's get some information. I'm going to explain everything, and then I'm going to give you some dates and some more information that will give you like a lot of insight, because this is really going to be affecting us for quite a while. I know. So here are the dates for you. So Saturn is in the sign of Pisces, and it's going retrograde as of March 11th, 2023. It goes into pre-shadow energy, so it kind of starts that slow down phase. And then Saturn hits full retrograde on June 17th. And it'll be in full retrograde until November 4th, 2023. And then it will start coming down in that post-shadow, kind of like lightening the energy as it goes down into that post-shadow energy will end on February 7th, 2024. So it's actually really in full retrograde for about 4.5 months. Now, I get asked this quite a lot, is like, well, Ruth, why do you tell us the pre-shadow and the post-shadow and all that kind of stuff? Why don't you just give us the firm dates? Well, I could. That's easy. I'm cutting out a couple of things. I could make it so much easier. I tell you because most people that are attached to their gifts, their psychic gifts and abilities, they are going to be affected way more than everybody else. Doesn't mean it's good, doesn't mean it's bad. It's just kind of we're more sensitive, we're more in the energy of things. And when a planet goes into retrograde, so like the first time I heard about a planet going into retrograde, I'm like, okay. And they're like, it doesn't happen until then. And I'm like, so why am I feeling it now? Why am I feeling everything you're saying I'm already going through? And they're like, oh, it could be, the pre-shadow time. And I'm like, wait, what? Pre-shadow. It's as it starts to amp up. Full retrograde is from that point until it gets out of that phase. And then it goes into post-shadow and starts kind of lightening the energy and kind of getting out of that and kind of heading back forward. So it makes it much easier to understand. You are going to be affected, psychic people, more than anybody else. It's just the way it is. Doesn't mean it's bad or anything else. It just means that we're more sensitive. And sometimes we're more sensitive early on, so kind of the pre-shadow, maybe the full retrograde, and then the post-shadow, it's like, we've already been through this. Other people, the full retrograde is harder, and then that post-shadow is like really, really hard. It just depends on your energy, so you have to kind of get used to each planet and how it affects you. So let's talk a little in general about kind of what is this going through. So I will tell you that, like I said, Saturn's in retrograde, full retrograde for about 4.5 months. And we're going to be kind of feeling strange or a little awkward. This is going to be a time where energies, like I said, are going to be feeling a little stuck at times, or it goes really fast and then it slows down again. So it kind of like rush hour traffic kind of thing. It'll feel like that. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It's one of those, it does give us some beneficial time. And I think a lot of times people think like all retrogrades are bad. No, they're really not. Some of them affect people more than others. So that may be like, wow, it really affected me at one time, so it's really bad. No, a lot of times it does. It gives us an opportunity to kind of really rethink things. Saturn is the planet of structure, infrastructure. Like what we base everything on, kind of like the things that we learned as a kid. It's also the king of karma. Yeah. King of karma. So it's one of those like things that you thought you got rid of when you were a kid, or got over when you were a teenager, a young person, 20s and 30s and stuff like that, could still come back and get you. Even if you're in your 20s now, you're like, I don't have, you could still have stuff come back up, because a lot of times when we're born in this life, we will have karma kind of already mixed in there from previous lives. So it's kind of like, okay. And then we could also have karma from our families as well. So it's kind of, yes, very interesting. What I will say is this really gives us an opportunity to kind of opens that door, opens that gate, and lets us get ready to kind of make some changes. Personally, with our family, professionally, it kind of gives us a great insight of kind of making some changes. One of the other things that Saturn kind of governs over is studies. So if you're in school, if you're studying something, if you're going over something, retesting in some area, that sort of thing, it may affect you a little bit more. Agriculture, you're going to see a lot of things agriculture-wise, either karmically not coming around or it's not coming the way it should. But I think the one that it affects most often is construction, because it's the planet of structure and infrastructure. So if your city is doing a project, rebuilding a bridge or doing something like that, if they're in construction during this time frame, or they start construction during the hardcore part between that June 17th and November 4th, this could mean that is going to be delayed, or things are going to slow down, or things are going to have to be rethought. Okay, so it's kind of like, okay, interesting. One of the things is Saturn in retrograde is a really great time to kind of take some time for yourself, kind of take a little bit of a step back, maybe a retreat, maybe some time where you're kind of like, I just don't want to be social right now. Maybe I want to take a step back, and maybe I want to take a break a little bit. This is also a great time to go on vacation, kind of take a step back. Do a little bit of isolating, not forever, not like forever, the whole 4.5 months, but take a little bit of a break. Or I'm going to take an extra day off, and the husband's at work or the wife's at work or whatever else, and I'm just going to sit and relax and kind of just reflect on your relationships. It's an ideal time to kind of like look at things differently. And you may start to visualize like there's a problem here, or there's an issue, or there's some obstacles coming up. And this can allow you to kind of move through things a little bit easier, especially when you bring in that karmic energy of just like, okay, now we're going to bring this over. Now we're going to make this change. This is a great time to make some great upgrades and some great insights of what's coming up next for you. One of the things I will tell you is that kind of one of the things that happens under Saturn in retrograde is because, especially this one being in, sorry, it's a long day, in the sign of Pisces. Pisces is usually a very social sign. Think of Pisces and the fish and everybody, like they're swimming around in the school and they're always together, they're always social, they're always moving forward. So that's kind of one of those like, okay. So because of that, with Saturn in retrograde and asking you to kind of take a step back, you may feel like I want to be a part of the group, but I really feel like I need to take a step back. I really want to be a part of the group, but I really want to take a step back. So don't let that overwhelm you too much. It may kind of make you feel like you're overwhelmed or a little sad or a little kind of like depressed a little bit. Get out of that mentality and get into some energy. Get out. Maybe you don't go to the mall with a friend, but maybe you just go to the mall and kind of go for a walk, or go to the park where everybody else is walking, but you don't have to really talk to anybody. So you're really kind of retreating, but there are other people around, and make sure that you're kind of concentrating on what's coming up for you and working through things a little bit differently than you have in the past. This can be a great time to kind of commit to moving forward, to constantly kind of keep moving forward. And Pisces can be a little wishy-washy in that area. And it can have things that like, I don't want to structure anything. I don't want to change anything. But kind of the zodiac sign is kind of like giving us that opportunity to kind of open up energy around us. And it also really, Saturn in retrograde is usually a really great time to kind of open up, especially Saturn in the sign of Pisces. This really kind of represents joy and prosperity and protection, family strengths, abundance, emotional energies, kind of realigning and kind of moving us forward. Saturn is definitely the planet of karma, the king of karma. And this can kind of really bring in some endurance or some structural issues of things like coming up from the past. And usually it's kind of letting us know it could be one of two things. Sometimes it's old things that are kind of coming up and going like, I'm leaving. You can just say, bye, we're out of here. Other things may be something new. So that may be something that you really have to kind of like, I really need to think about this, or kind of think about this in a different way. Kind of really check into things related to discipline and self-control. And usually this means, and kind of the structure of it too, is our calendars. Our calendars are way more important and have so much power over what we do. I'm one of those, definitely. Saturn governs all things discipline. So it's one of those, what are some things that you should be having on your calendar? What are some of the things that you have to take off your calendar? I've already been going through this of kind of like, okay, this is on there, but I'm kind of, every time it comes up, I'm ignoring it. I need to get that off of there, because what it's doing is allowing me to not restructure my day or kind of count for what's coming up. So it's like, we're going to let this one go. Saturn goes in retrograde every year for about 4.5 months. So this isn't anything new. This isn't anything like, oh my gosh, we've never gone through this. We go through this every year, and it goes through the same time frame. And this is a really great time to kind of push forward like personal growth, kind of really taking time to really think about what are the things that have been blocking us that we're ready to get rid of. If there's any pitfalls that might kind of like come up, usually those are the obstacles that make us fall down every year at the same time. So make sure you're making preparations for that. If you hit one time of year with Saturn in retrograde, and maybe that's pre-shadow, maybe it's full retrograde, maybe it's in post-shadow, keep an eye on that and kind of like, okay, this is where I get stuck every year, so let me keep working through this energy. There's going to be an emphasis on spirituality and creative practices. When have you not been kind of like creating? I would say kind of our creative side is really part of our own personal structure. It's how we take a step back. It's how we kind of take a retreat. So what is it that the creative things that you love to do, have you been putting them off? Have you been starting them up again? So start them up, get that energy going, kind of get that relaxation of like, yes, I can do this, moving to this energy as well. When you work, there's a lot of balance issues, and that can kind of come in with a lot of karma as well, is kind of balancing our family calendar with our kids, with our husband, with our spouse, our wives, and kind of like what's coming up next for us. So there's a good chance that we've been neglecting a lot of passion projects, kind of like what are those things that we just love to do that we kind of like, oh, I'll do it later. Oh, I'll take care of it later. Maybe now's the time we need to do that. Maybe now's the time that it's kind of Saturn with retrograde. It's kind of like, okay, let's take care of this. Let's move into kind of some of the key dates of Saturn in retrograde in the sign of Pisces. Really the first major one that's really going to be affecting us is coming up July 20th. Mars in the sign of Virgo is in opposition to Saturn in retrograde. At this time, we're going to be fighting against like our authority, kind of like our patriarchy, kind of like our society itself. No one will want to have their views repressed. And in fact, everyone wants to speak their minds without getting any opposition or no questions. Like, don't ask me any questions. Let me just tell you what I want or I'm thinking. And then kind of like, almost like mic drop. I'm ready to drop out of here and not do this. That is a bad sign. So make sure that you are really kind of hearing that come up in your ears of like, if I'm talking and I'm telling other people things, I need to be open to hearing what they have to say, think, or do about it. If you're having issues with your job, that you might be inclined to kind of speak up. This is not advisable at this time. Kind of like let this go. If there's something coming up, this can kind of lead to worse issues or more problem issues and things that you may not be ready to work through or get through at this time. Our next big key date is Mercury, August 1st. Mercury in Virgo opposes Saturn in retrograde. And this is going to be bringing up a lot of conflicts in things that we love and care about, kind of like almost like I have to pick and choose. Before we speak our minds, it's important that we really listen to others and not jumping to snap decisions. So many times people don't really listen. We've talked about that a couple of times of like people don't really listen, and it's important that everybody kind of gets a chance to make a statement, to make a change, to really be heard. And this is going to be one that could bring up some statements, harsh statements, some arguments as well. Make sure that you're really listening or taking the time. It's like, I've listened to you and now listen to me. And that can really kind of get you to kind of hear each other's side and open up to really better communication. Our next one is August 27th. We have Virgo, our sun in Virgo opposes Saturn in retrograde. And this is going to be influence our, like really our confidence, because that sun sign is our ego. So it's going to be really like, are we really feeling it that time frame? We could really feel the world has forgotten about us, or kind of like everybody's kind of wiped us under the rug, kind of hidden us out, and not feeling like we're part of things. Maybe we're feeling like we're being ignored or letting things go. Remember, true power lies within ourselves. Like, that is most important at this time frame. And wake up to the call of your self-esteem and kind of really amplify this at this time. I will tell you that this Saturn in retrograde, kind of really who it's going to be kind of like really intense for are our mutable signs. Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. These are going to be feeling this transit most of all. These signs are going to be kind of like a whammy, like whack, like, oh my gosh, like slap me upside the head, like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Saturn is pushing them to be more serious and grow up, and not blame others. I will tell you, it is going to be really challenging with like social planets, that sort of thing. It's really going to be hard for people that are very social, kind of bringing that energy in. And whether individuals are ready to elevate and kind of make those changes, or they kind of like, no, I'm not ready for that responsibility, or I'm going to push this off. I will tell you that, remember, Saturn is the planet of karma and is always going to collect what it's due. When people do shady or bad things, it's going to come back and bite them. It may take a little bit to get there, but it is going to come back and get them. This is going to be a really great beneficial sign for some. I will say Saturn in retrograde is a great time to commit to making new changes, making new plans, upgrading things, and really kind of lessons that we have kind of really kind of hesitated before. Like, now it's like, okay, now we've got this energy. Now we're ready to kind of step into all of this energy and step into something much more beneficial, not only for ourselves, but for our family members as well. So let's do some angel cards and hopefully get us a little bit deeper insight into all things Saturn in retrograde. This one is popping out first. And this is Taurus, and this is cultivating. And what I get is kind of talking about cultivating those changes. Don't put things off. We've already been doing that for a while. Get this ready to go and kind of cultivate some changes. What are the changes that you're ready to make at this time? What are the changes that you're ready for right now? Next is Cancer. This is the immersion. We're all going to be dealing with karma for a while. This is just kind of what Saturn is the planet of karma. So where are we immersed in karma? Where have we kind of balanced this out? And it doesn't mean just this life. It could be past lives as well. So we may feel some energy popping up, or some energies coming out of like, okay, and if it feels like karma, like, do the best you can and work through it, and then move forward. Don't stop. Just keep going. This one is dignified, and this is all about the strength. We have the strength to make it through. We pick and chose this time frame to come forward. This is a great time frame. This happens every year too. Saturn goes into retrograde for 4.5 months. It happens every year. Use this to your advantage. Saturn in retrograde isn't a horrible one, and it's really amping you up and ready for you to make some changes and upgrades. Venus, this is all about the beloved. Venus energy at this time frame, right? It does make a hard aspect to it, but this is a great time to kind of take care of you. You are the beloved. You are the one that needs to be taking care of you, not someone else. Take time off. Like I said, take a vacation, take some time away, even if it's just a few hours, even if it's just a little bit of time. Taking some time for yourself, kind of like relaxing in that energy, can be a really great one. Leo, this is all about shining, allowing us to shine forward, making those changes that we require making changes that we're ready to make. That can make all the difference in the world. And there are some changes that I would say don't make. One of the things you should never do in Saturn in retrograde is start a construction project. Don't do it. If it's already been going on, bring it to a close as quickly as possible. But it's one of those, if you're starting something new, I would wait until it's at least out of full retrograde, until after November 4th to kind of really move up in that energy. This one is coming up next. This is solar flares, and this is all about activation. Be in action. If there's something on your calendar that you don't like, change it. If there's something in your life that you don't like, change it. Be willing to change and modify your energy to upgrade you and what's around you. This is our last card. This is all about Virgo, and this is about digesting information. If things don't work, be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Be kind, like, how can I upgrade this? How can I fix this energy? How can I change this about what's coming through? And be honest and patient with yourself. It's one of those planetary energies can really bring in a notion of being honest and patient with ourselves. But it's one of those, a lot of times, instead of doing it with ourselves, we're giving it to everybody else. And we really should be kind of taking that into our own energy and take care of ourselves. Be part of that beloved energy of taking care of us so we can take care of others eventually. I thank you so much for joining me today, and I know that we'll be talking again soon.